Since the early 50s, an area of this breathtaking scenery the size of Lancashire has been shut off to the public for the sole purpose of testing American nuclear warheads, and by arrangement since 1958, those of Britain too. Each year, Britain tests up to 2 warheads here, believed to be those for the Trident system.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
America says it must continue to explode nuclear devices, mainly to test the reliability of the existing nuclear stockpile. As the number of craters shows, testing has continued effectively unrestricted by superpower treaties. For years, the Soviet Union rejected the idea of intrusive verification of test sites like this. America and Britain have always insisted on-site verification is vital for foolproof checking of the size of each nuclear test. The Soviet position on verification meant the Threshold Test Ban Treaty signed by Presidents Brezhnev and Nixon in 1974 and the Peaceful Nuclear Explosions Treaty of 1976 were never ratified by the American Congress. In turn, the non-ratification has meant that for more than a decade, America and Britain have been able to carry on testing in Nevada unrestricted by any treaties. But now Mr. Gorbachev, determined to end a nuclear arms race which produced craters like this, has reversed Soviet policy and called America's bluff. Scientists from both superpowers must agree a mutually acceptable method to verify the size of each other's tests. Until now, the Soviets have always claimed the size of explosions can be monitored by a network of seismic stations well away from test sites like its own in Kazakhstan. Washington says the Soviet method is too inaccurate. The US government, on the other hand, will only accept their own system called Cortex, whereby a parallel shaft is sunk full of cables which can detect the power of a nuclear explosion with a high degree of accuracy. American officials say Cortex is intrusive, but no danger to each superpower's national security. The Kremlin calculates that when a verification system is mutually agreed, America and Britain in particular will no longer be able to blame Soviet objections as the reason for not agreeing to an eventual ban on all tests. Supporters of testing say 3/4 of reliability problems found in the nuclear stockpile have only been found through testing devices. But leading scientists now say such claims are misleading. The majority of those problems, they say, were discovered 25 years ago.
If you look at the details of those examples, what you find is that the large majority of them were troubles that were discovered shortly after the moratorium in the early 60s and have nothing to do with the present stockpile. So that what you wound up with after the moratorium, and could do some testing, were a lot of weapons that had not been tested to anything like the kind of standards that the weapons in the present stockpile have. So that experience simply is not relevant to today's situation.
2, 1.
Experts like Dr. Kidder therefore believe the main purpose of America's test program is to modernize and develop new nuclear weapons. A test program going back 25 years, which will have to be severely curtailed if, following the expected superpower agreement on a verification system, there is first agreement on a new low threshold limiting the size of nuclear tests, then eventually a comprehensive test ban. But those who live in special settlements on the Nevada test site and who make their living from the business of testing nuclear weapons seem unconcerned by the possible knock-on for the test business, which the visit by Soviet officials may herald. The speculation now is that the prospect of a test ban one day will mean the pace of tests here will be stepped up, so that America can learn the maximum possible about the effects of nuclear explosions before they are outlawed for good.